Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. We are here and we are learning about the topic of Valentine's Day. Okay? It is Valentine's Day, and as you can see, it's not Valentine's Day. It's nearing Valentine's Day. It's the month of Valentine's Day. And as you can see, I have some red lights on my desk. My house is decorated Valentine's Day. So let's research the Valentine's Day, okay? Okay, so let's look what different pages. So I'm going to be pulling them up and we can look about what Valentine's Day is from. Valentine's Day, also called Saint Valentine's Day, keyword saint. So the first thing we need to establish with any holiday is, what is the holiday trying to do? For example, Halloween is trying to scare you. And the Bible says, do not fear. Basically saying anything that's built in fear or being scared or anything like that is not of God, obviously. But let's look at the history of Valentine's Day, okay? Valentine's Day, also called Saint Valentine's Day, or the Feast of Saint Valentine, is celebrated on February 14th. So here's the first thing. It originated as a Christian feast day, eating foods, honoring a martyr, a person who has been martyred, same as the apostles, I guess, if you will, named Valentine. And through later folk traditions, it has also become a significant cultural and religious and commercial celebration of romance and love in many regions of the world. So with Halloween, for example, originally a secular holiday, secular, worldly, okay? And then it became more Christians started to wanting to do Halloween because they started falling back into the world. Whereas this holiday originated not as a pagan holiday, but as a Christian holiday. And now the world is trying to corrupt it into an ungodly holiday. Okay, so that's the first answer. Valentine's Day does not have pagan history as far as it being originated from a non-biblical source. Okay, there are a number of martyr stories associated with Saint Valentine's Day. Okay, including the imprisonment of Saint Valentine's Day. And yes, Saint Valentine's would mean that he's Christian. Saint Valentine of Rome, for ministering to Christians under persecution under the Roman Empire in the 3rd century. Okay? Basically in the early, I think 3rd century would be the early 200s. Okay? According to early tradition, Saint Valentine restored sight to the blind daughter of his jailer. Sounds kind of like an apostle to me a little bit. Numerous later additions to the legend have better related it to the theme of love. So how would we relate that to you? That a tradition. Okay, so just as Christmas was originally done by a Christian, trying to do his duty, to do kindness and goodwill to others, the world has corrupted it into something ungodly. And more of a secular, more of worldly, like my desires, my romance, me. Okay? The same is of Valentine's Day. It was a Christian holiday. It was a Christian belief founded by a Christian person. And the world is trying to corrupt it into something not of God. Okay? Tradition maintains that St. Valentine's Day performed weddings for Christian soldiers who were forbidden to marry by the Roman Empire. The 18th century, misconstrued this legend, claims he wrote the jailer's daughter a letter signed Your Valentine, as a farewell before his execution. Okay. The 8th century, that would be about the 700s, recorded the celebration of the feast of Saint Valentine on February 14th. That's where we get the day from. The day became associated with romantic love, okay, in the 14th and 15th century. So when did it shift over to romantic love? That occurred in the 13 and 1400s, okay, when courtly love flourished, when people really started being happy about parading their love. Oh, expressing my love, okay. And it was associated with lovebirds. Those are doves, lovebirds of early spring. So the lovebirds that would come out in early spring. In the 18th century, this would be the 1700s, in England, it grew into an occasion for couples, people in relationships, to express their love for one another. Now there's the next thing, okay? Biblically, what does the Bible say? Love another, do for another, selfless love, right? Valentine's Day, for the most part, should be a selfless time where you're doing for someone else. And that is, for the most part, what Valentine's Day does. You go out and buy, think about it, guys go out and buy flowers and candy and teddy bears, not for themselves, for their partner, okay? The woman gets all dressed up and has a nice romantic thing that she does and makes a dinner and all this stuff. Not usually for herself. It includes herself, but not usually for herself. They're doing for each other, okay, kind of thing. And that's a biblical concept, just so you know, okay? Expressing their love for each other by presenting flowers. That's where the flower idea comes from in England. Confectionery, that would be snacks and foods and candies. That's where the buying candies came from. And sending greeting cards, known as Valentines. That's where the giving of Valentine's Day cards comes from. Valentine's Day symbolizes that are used, or Valentine's Day symbols that are used today in the heart of a shape and doves and the figure of a winged Cupid. Now that part of Cupid is more of the not really pagan, but more of the worldly side of things, okay? Cupid has no association whatsoever with Valentine's Day. It was originated from a Christian person, Valentine's Day. The chocolates were an act of love, flowers an act of love, sending greeting cards an act of love, all of these things an act of love, okay? And in Italy, St. Valentine's keys were given to lovers as a romantic symbol. It was given to them as a symbol of an invitation to unlock the giver's heart. So basically, back then, if I gave you keys on Valentine's Day, it would be a symbol that you can now unlock my heart of love. Get it? As well as children to ward off epilepsy. Epilepsy would be a disease. You might want to look it up. Okay. St. Valentine's Day is not a public holiday in many countries. It's not public holiday. It's not a holiday. It's just, it is a holiday on parts, but they don't shut stuff down for it, okay? It was done in Italy, Rome, England, many other countries, so it kind of bounced around from place to place. Yes, no worries. So we're looking up the history. I'm trying not to give you certain parts that you don't want to know, mainly things that we've repeated. Who it was done by, we already know that. Valentine was a priest. So there's another sign of whether or not it's ungodly or not. Okay, a priest in Rome that was martyred in 269 AD. Okay, and his body was kept in the church, in the catacombs, in San Valentino, Saint Valentine, in Rome. And it was transferred to a church in the 1288 to 1292 years. Okay. There was supposedly flowered crowns and other such things. Okay. February 14th is celebrated on St. Valentine's Day, the 14th, in various Christian denominations. It has taken on a more worldly state. So, again, whereas Halloween went from pagan to Christian, okay, here's my question. Yeah, go ahead and ask. I'll look in the comments for it. Whereas Halloween went from pagan to Christian, St. Valentine's Day, as well as Christmas, went from Christian to worldly, okay, to pagan. So, corruption of. So, Valentine's Day, Christmas were originally by believers, corrupted by the world, okay? And the feast is celebrated as Balzan. So feast meaning foods, eating lots of foods. Valentine's Day is a symbol of love. Yes, absolutely. The Valentine symbol is of the heart. And remember, the one thing I would indicate to anybody is when you do Valentine's Day, focus more on giving than on receiving. Because if you're focused on receiving, you're being self-centered. You're being a lover of self, as the Bible says. Okay. Do the opposite. On this day, you should be full force giving of your love to others, giving of your energy to others, giving of your romance to others. More importantly, if you have a lover, especially a wife. Now, when I say lover, I'm referring to the world, because they're going to not care about marriage and all that. But even if you have a girlfriend, right, and you're dating, you can still do romantic things. You can buy teddy bears. You can buy chocolates. You can buy flowers. You can take them out to dinner. You can cook them a dinner. You can decorate the house. Biblically, you just can't, get intimate, meaning have sex or make love or any of that. Okay. But other than that, you can do all of that stuff. So just making that clear for you. This holiday was recognized in the East Orthodox Church, and was originally recognized on July 6th, and that's when they designated it. Okay, it's honored, and there's lots of legends that float around with it. So those are, for the most part, some of the things of the legends. Now, I'm not really going to talk too much about the legends per se, because that kind of seems silly, but I'm just looking for anything that would indicate where we get certain stuff from, like the what they call it, Cupid, for example, would be one of them. But yeah, this story has a lot to do with Claudius and Claudius II and such, and Saint Valentine's Day when he healed people. Why people make romantic things during Valentine's Day, but after romantic day, it go bye-bye. How would I say that? People, for the most part of the world, instead of being people that let love live in them consistently, which is what the Bible teaches, they opt out for, okay, I only have to do the work on this one day. Okay? So guys, for example, they're like, man, if I had to buy flowers and candy and do all this romantic stuff every single day, I'm going to get worn out, right? Then they opt out for the easy way out. They don't have to do all this stuff. So that's kind of why, like, they don't do it, But what does the Bible say, for the most part? Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and lay your life down for her. Sacrificial love. That includes every single day. This is why you will often see more Christians being consistent in the romance all throughout the week, all throughout the day. Doesn't matter what day it is. Okay? They're going to try their best to be loving, affectionate, caring, giving, selfless, and all those things as much as they can on those days. The world, on the other hand, so the world, on the other hand, for the most part, and that has changed, okay? So for guys of the world, here's how a lot of them will view it. If I buy roses, candy, and flowers for my girl, she'll give up the sex, and I get pleasured. So you see, it's more of a self-centered thing. Even though the objection looks more like, I'm doing it for you, But in reality, they're not. They're doing it for themselves. Whereas Christians and believers should be going, yes, maybe there might be something that occurs if I have a husband and a wife, and maybe that might lead down the later in that day to being intimate sexually between a husband and a wife. But the motive as to why I'm doing this romantic action has nothing to do with me. It has to do about showing affection and love to you. And that should be something that occurs every single day, not just on one special day. Okay? So that's the best I can say on that. And aside from that, I would say that a lot of it has to do with the corruption of the world to twist things to one specific day. Now, I'm sure you would, for example, with Christmas, you've heard it's the season of giving. It's the season of love. So the question would be, how come on Christmas they don't do that all year round? How come you're not giving and being caring and more, and people are like, well, it's Christmas time. Let's just be more loving and more caring. How come you don't do that throughout the entire year? Same with Valentine's Day, right? For me, biblically, you are told to love, romance, honor, cherish, show affection, and even in, I think it's Song of Solomon, Song of Songs, it has many stories of huge romance and telling husbands to enjoy their wives' bodies and stuff like that. And I'm strictly talking about husbands and wives. It's encouraging. And even the Bible many times said, don't negate, like if you're married, don't deny your partner their sexual needs. Otherwise, they're going to be tempted to, and they might fall to temptation. Okay? So I hope that answers the question you have. If you have any more, feel free to ask them. But we figured out where Valentine's Day cards come from. That was originally from the guy who founded the thing, named Saint Valentine, and he wrote the first Valentine's Day card to himself and addressed it to the daughter of his jailer after he healed her of her blindness. Kind of sounds like something a Christian would do. And at the bottom of the letter, he wrote, "Your Valentine." That's where Valentine's Day cards come from. There are other examples for in the 16th century. That would be the 1500s. In order of people that understood Saint Valentine in Rome, said, let this tree remain as a symbol of abiding love and friendship. So they planted a tree or something like that. And of course, St. Valentine's Day would do special Christian weddings for people that the Romans designated as unable to be married. Okay, I don't think that really relates to because Saint Valentine was a Christian person, so I don't think he's gonna be like, yeah, let's marry off some gays and lesbians. No. The Roman Emperor Claudius II forbid this marrying in order to grow his army. In other words, the whole reason that he forbid marriage to certain peoples was he was like, if people aren't getting married, then I can just take them in and put them in the army and send them off, so my army is going to be more huge, okay, and stuff like that. So George Monger writes that this marriage ban was never issued, and that St. Claudius told his soldiers to take 2 or 3 women for themselves. Now, obviously, that would be unbiblical. You can't have more than a couple. I mean, you can't have more than one, biblically. So, for this person, Claudius II, to tell his soldiers to take many women, no, ungodly. According to legend, in order to remind these men of their vows and God's love, St. Vincent also said to cut hearts from parchment. So that's where the idea of cutting hearts out and the heart symbol, it came from St. Vincent, to remind people, specifically to remind men of their vows that they take to be in the Bible. So he's pointing everything back to the Bible, okay? St. Vincent is. He's going, here's the Bible. I want people to remember it's of the heart. You have to be loving, you have to be giving, you have to be caring. So I want to remind people of the vows they took when they got married, and as well as God's love. Okay. So to answer the basic question of this live, is Valentine's Day ungodly to do? No. The answer is no. It's not. The emphasis I would say though is be very careful. Okay. Of what you associate when you're doing it. For example, if you got cupids all around your house and you're running around in a diaper out in public, or you're a woman and you're running around in some skimpy outfit pretending to be Cupid, you definitely got some problems and you got some screwed up thoughts in your head about what Valentine's Day is. You're being inappropriate, known as lewdness. Okay, and we're going to look up where this Cupid stuff came from, by the way. But if it's about love, being romantic, being affectionate to someone that you love and care about, and showing that affection, showing that kind of care for them, then it is definitely biblical, as you're seeing. Okay, and I will actually copy this so everybody in the chat group of mine can read it. Okay. And so he told him to make hearts to remind them of their vows to God and God's love as well. He gave them to the soldier and to the persecuted Christians, and that's where the usage of hearts for Valentine's Day came from. Saint Valentine's wore a purple amethyst ring. Amethyst is kind of like a greenish color, and it customarily worn on his hand of Christian bishops with an image of a Cupid engraved in it. Okay, so he wore a ring with a picture of, maybe it was just he happened to have this ring, okay, but it was on the ring. That's where the Cupid image came from. A recognized symbol associated with love. Now, the symbol itself of a Cupid in the Roman Empire, that image is associated with romance and love. To you, I would say this: if you're believing in Cupid, believing in this magical creature that runs around with a magical arrow and shoots people, you're being deluded. Okay, the only one that promotes love in people's hearts is God. Okay, God is the author of love. Okay, Cupids do not exist. I believe cherubims do exist. And I have to look up cherubim, because that is in the Bible. It's a cherubim angel, okay? And basically, it's a four-wing angel. It's Hebrew, so it is biblical, okay? And it is one of the unearthly beings who directly attend to God. So a being that is not of the earth, okay? So it is biblical. So cherubims are biblical, and they look nothing like Cupids at all. Okay. So, but the idea of Cupid was from a ring that Saint Vincent wore, and that ring, that image of Cupid, is a Roman image, and it's associated with the idea of love. So the idea of love is real, but the image is from a worldly place, not from an unworldly place. Yes, and many people don't even know the history. They don't look it up or anything like that, okay? I get you. Anyway, Roman soldiers would recognize the ring and ask him to perform a marriage for them. So they would be like, kind of like how you would see a pastor, like a priest with the white collar, and you instantly recognize that he's a priest, right? Same scenario. People would recognize the ring and be like, he can marry me and my wife. Please marry me. You get the idea, okay? And it was probably due to the association of Saint Valentine, okay? Amethyst has become the birthstone of February. amethyst. So I think it's green, but I'm not sure. So amethyst is a purplish color. Okay, it's made from quartz, and it's a purplish color. Okay, and it became the birthstone of February, which is thought to attract love. The idea of some birthstone attracting love is stupid. Just my opinion. I don't believe in that nonsense at all. But that's some of the history. So the day where Valentine's Day came from, for the most part, the Cupid, the idea of Cupid, where that came from. Customarily sending cards, flowers, chocolates, and gifts, that originated in the UK, okay, United Kingdom. And Valentine's Day still remains connected with various regional customs in England. So it's very big in England, in other words. Now here's one. So let's read this. A character named Jack, Valentine knocks on the rear doors of houses, leaving sweets and presents for children. Now that's a folk story, not reality. Okay. Although he leaves treats, many children were scared of this mystical person. So more than likely not real. These are right now they're just talking about folk traditions that have been passed around. Okay. The flowers that came from Slovenia is one of the places it came from. Okay. Plants and flowers started to grow on this day. Okay, as for the most part, back then spring was a lot sooner. Okay, it has been celebrated as the day when the first work of the vineyards happened. Okay, and it was mostly in March for the most part. So the date changed as the holiday transitioned from one country to another. They kind of just added on to it, kind of thing. So it originated with St. Vincent, then moved over here. These guys felt this, so they added this on to top of it, and then they added this on top of it. So that's how all these added on stuff started, okay? Now, the feast of St. Valentine's Day originated with Christian and was marked by the Western Church in honor of Christian martyrs, with the Christian martyrs such as Valentine in the 8th century. Okay. Later on, pagan gods of love, marriage, and fertility came into the mix. Okay. But the original thing was more of a... Now, in the 8th century, they had sacramentary service, and it was more related to a purification of health, fertility, which is the idea of being able to make a lot of babies, and nothing to do with love. So it became more of worldly, having to do with your health and your sex drive and stuff like that. Okay. The celebration of foods on St. Valentine that they're supposed to do has nothing to do with sex. Sorry. Now, there was another festival that occurred in Rome, okay? And these were more of ungodly for the most part, but it's where they get the day of Valentine from. February 13th, February 14th, things like that, okay? And February 14th is where it was. So, now, here comes some theories, okay? Some researchers believe, okay, that Gelasius, the guy who created this sex drive kind of Valentine's Day, replaced Lupercalia with the celebration of the purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the mother of Jesus, and claim the connection to the 14th century, that would be the 1300s, of romantic love. but there's no historical evidence of this. Okay? So there's many myths going around, so I would not pay attention to that. You want to pay more attention to things that you know are fact. Valentine, where the ring idea came from, what it originally was for, a selfless kind of love, not a self-centered kind of love. Okay? Many other things. There were many poems written, just as with Santa Claus, where they got different ideas from poems that had been written. The same thing of Valentine's Day. There was many poems written. I'm looking at a couple of them now on this page. And so they get some of the silly ideas from that. Okay. Now, another one that was from a poem about birds mating on St. Valentine's Day. So that's perhaps where some of the love birds came from, the idea of the love birds. They have a lot of poetry that they have here. That was passed down throughout the years. Okay. In modern times, however, in times of today, it became a very secular, the word secular means worldly, holiday. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with you celebrating Valentine's Day as long as you have the proper ideas of what it references. And since I didn't know anything about it, I'm learning this too, just right along with you. Okay. Like I knew nothing about the Valentine's Day, the chocolates, the flowers, the Cupid, none of that. So I'm learning just right along with you. Okay. But we're learning it originated from a Christian perspective. So as long as, my belief is as long as you take it back to a Christian perspective, just as the same as you do with Christmas, as long as you refocus that onto a Christian perspective of it, and not some Santa Claus, come down my chimney and give me presents and stuff. As long as you don't try and go cuckoo with some of the theories and mess that's going around. The other two things I will say is this. Christmas and Valentine's Day are two of the biggest booming sales days in society today. They sell more stuff on Valentine's Day and Christmas than they do almost any other holidays. Okay, so it is a very monetary, meaning money, gain day. So businesses are going to try to do a lot of sales and drop prices down to get you to buy a bunch of stuff and, waste your money. So I would just say, be careful on how much you buy, what you buy, what's it associated with it, anything like that. And for the love of God, please make sure your motives when you do Valentine's Day are accurate. That you're not doing it about you. You're doing it about blessing others, being there for others, being kind to others, loving others, things like that. Okay? Since the 19th century, handmade cards were given as greeting cards. Okay? That's where part of that. So 19th century, kind of like something like 400 or 500 years ago, give or take. Okay? Chocolate company, they made all the chocolates, and so it became a very sales thing. And now for the most part, it's like some booming. Now listen to some of these figures. Okay. The U.S. Greeting Card Association estimates that approximately 190 million Valentines are sent each year in the United States. That's a lot. Half of those Valentines are given to family members other than husband or wife. So you can give Valentine's cards to family members, usually to children. Now, I can vouch for this. In school, your kids would come home with a whole box of chocolates and Valentines from different class members. Okay, teachers became the people receiving most of the Valentines, teachers. And the average Valentine's spending has increased every year in the U.S. from $108 in 2010 to about $131 in 2013. Today, I would probably say it would be somewhere in the realm of close to $200 of U.S. money. And by the way, for anyone overseas, that would be roughly, for the most part, the average cost of a visa. Okay? The rise of internet popularity turned this holiday into some more of a secular, worldly holiday versus a Christian, respectful, selfless love kind of holiday. So most people today, when they do Valentine's Day, they're not really thinking about what they can do for someone as much as what I can get from someone. Okay, so that would be the catch that I would avoid. Okay, so it's got a lot of stuff with that. Flowers, okay. Candy, nothing wrong with it. Valentine's cards, nothing wrong with it. You're saying you care, you love them. Cupid, probably something wrong with it if you're doing it or associating with it. But yeah, the flowers, the candy, the romance. And as far as romance goes, as long as you're married, you're free to enjoy all the romance as far as it goes. If you're not married, only certain parts of the romance you can do, biblically. And there was a lot of customs that were added on, and just like with Christmas, where they got now Santa Claus, and they skewed everything out of order to where Santa Claus is some fat, jolly guy, when originally he was a skinny, old Christian man with a long beard. Okay? Now they're kind of going into what different areas do. So I don't really want to talk about this, like Asia, Bangladesh, China, what they do there, India, what they do there, Iran, what they do there, and all this stuff. So I'm just going to kind of skip past all that. You can read that for yourself. Here's the part I will say. Some countries actually ban Valentine's Day. The celebration of it have been banned in Indonesia, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia due to beliefs that the holiday conflicts with Islamic culture. That's why it's been banned. Since 2009, certain things that you do on Valentine's Day, such as giving flowers, cards, and gifts, are banned in Iran. Okay, that's one of them as well. So there's some bans going around in the world where they're not like, I'm not doing this. We don't want this. We don't want that. We don't want this. And ladies and gentlemen, that is, for the most part, the gist of Valentine's Day. So I hope I answered your question. It is not unbiblical for you to enjoy holiday of Valentine's Day as long as you understand the purpose of it to show. So the way I'm going to say this is like this. In the Bible it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, lay your life down for her, do for her, care for her. The same principles that the Bible says, where you're to be selfless and giving and affectionate and romantic and caring, right? That same thing you should bring into this Valentine's Day, and you should disregard anything that's associated with myths or so. No cupids. I would stay away from that completely. Just as in my house, I'm still going to do something similar to Christmas, but there's going to be no Santa Claus, no Rudolph, no Frosty the Snowman, nothing associated with any of that stuff, because that's more of the same thing as doing for Cupid. Okay. And this year I'm going to do more of the Jewish holiday type stuff myself. So anyway, guys, be blessed. Have a great day, and I hope that this gives you some idea of the history behind Valentine's Day, where it came from, and everything like that. So be blessed. Have a great day, and take care.